It's 8 o'clock. This is the UK Tonight. Scientists are investigating whether a meningitis mutation turned it into a superspreader. Vaccinations against meningitis are now being extended to Year 11 pupils at schools in Kent with known or suspected cases. Also tonight, millions of households will get no help from the government with soaring energy bills. It will only go to those most in need. Plus, married at first sight relationship coach Mel Schilling has died at the age of 54. We'll hear from her friend and doctor on what you can do to catch bowel cancer early. The scandal that won't go away, the King heckled about his brother in Cornwall today. And Mo to go. Salah announces he's leaving Liverpool at the end of this season. All that to come and much more on the UK Tonight. The meningitis outbreak in Kent has now passed its peak, but it took 2 young lives, an 18-year-old sixth former named as Juliet Kenny from Faversham and a student at the University of Kent. Their loved ones will be grieving while others worry about friends who are still in hospital or, indeed, their own health. Now scientists are investigating whether a mutation in the meningitis B strain could have turned it into a super spreader. Well, our science and technology editor, Tom Clark, is here with me in the studio and has been following this story closely. Tom, some real concerns, even though we've past the peak of this in Kent. What's the latest on the investigation as to the mutation and the source of the outbreak, as it were?
I mean, and this is something they're actively trying to investigate. Meningitis outbreaks happen. They are fortunately rare, and they're still rare. What's unusual about this one, it was large. It was a lot of people affected. One bit of good news, we were up to 30 suspected cases, beyond 30 suspected cases at the weekend. That's now come down. There's 23 cases too. They're waiting to confirm. They're pretty confident they are. But what we got today is an update on that scientific investigation. What exactly happened to conspire? Because we don't want to see this happen again. And one of the key, and I think important details, big caveat here, I think it's important to say, this is ongoing research. They're in the middle of it right now, so they're giving updates as they happen. This could all change. But the early indication is from looking at the whole genetic sequence of just one bacteria that was involved in this outbreak. It does have some important mutations in it that potentially could have made it a little more capable of infecting people. Doesn't mean it causes worse disease, but it could have been a little more infectious. So it's an active line of inquiry. And it might help explain why you had this situation where occasionally you might get a student or two go down with meningitis because they carry more of the bug, typically as students are a bit more vulnerable. But they're looking at some other things as well. So what about the immunity amongst that sort of generation of people? There is some suspicion, although no confirmation, could lack of social mixing during COVID lockdowns have given them less immunity. So they're doing a big study of immunity across the UK population for this bug. And they also want to know what's going on in that nightclub. You know, we now know 20 of the cases had a direct link. You know, they went to that club on that night out of 23. So it clearly played a really important role. Was there anything odd about the behaviour of people there? Was anything special going on? They're looking into that too.
That investigation ongoing, the answer's still to come, but what we know so far about the fact that we've passed the peak now, does this mean that there won't be any further spread? Because meningitis often talked about amongst the student population, you know, parents talking to their kids about it when they go to university, but this is being talked about by everyone. A lot of people say, well, can my young kids get it? Can I get it? I'm in my 40s or 50s.
Yeah, so as we understand, from what we know from previous outbreaks and the general sort of, and they call them sporadic cases, they just pop up from time to time. Meningitis is always there. We can't get rid of the bacteria that causes it. And it's also, remember, caused by viral infections and other bugs as well. So we're talking about Men B here, which is a specific type of bug. It is out there. There's some ifs here. If it is potentially a little bit more infectious, that might lead to more sporadic cases. So we might see a few more cases, possibly in Kent. We might see another cluster or two outside of Kent linked to this bug, maybe linked to travel from there. They're saying that is a possibility, and they're putting the healthcare system on alert for that. But more widely, there's no indication yet and no reason to think there's an elevated risk of that. What they're suspecting here, if we've got sort of pieces of bad luck stacked on top of each other, we had a potentially more transmissible bug under investigation, plus maybe lower immunity in a student population. But remember, there's students all over Britain go to nightclubs every night, and we didn't see outbreaks. It's obviously not something which makes them think there's bits of bad luck. Then you've got this single nightclub in Canterbury with a lot of students. Maybe the bug got in there at a bad time, and we may have just seen probabilities stacked on top of each other that cause this big outbreak. And the probability, again, is that that might not be repeated across the UK. But they're looking into it, and we need answers to these questions as well, because we're reviewing vaccination for meningitis B. That could be a really important step, but we need to know about that level of immunity in the population first and how unusual this event was to justify that wider rollout, because it's going to be expensive. And they also want to know, are there risk factors that we've overlooked? Are there things that we need to think about more carefully with students who are more susceptible as they start college, start mixing more in the future? OK, Tom, thank you. Some reassuring news there tonight in what has been a very worrying time for so many people. Tom Clark there, thank you. Now, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, said today that the government would step in to help those who most need it from soaring energy bills. However, middle earners will miss out, with no repeat of the universal support that was offered by the last Conservative government.
I can confirm to the House that contingency planning is taking place for every eventuality, so that we can keep costs down for everyone and provide support for those who need it most. The challenges may be significant, but I promise to do what is right and fair, being responsive in a changing world and responsible in the national interest.
Well, let's head live to Westminster. Our chief political correspondent, John Craig, is standing by. So help, but only for a specific group of people, it seems. How's that gone down?
Well, I think there's broad support for that, because she explained that what's the point of helping out those at the top end of the income scale? They don't really need the money. And the government has said consistently over the last couple of weeks, going back to the Prime Minister a week or so ago, that it was the most vulnerable who would be targeted. Now, one of the major announcements she made today was about a dreadful phrase, price gouging. In other words, profiteering at the petrol pumps in particular, possibly shops as well. She said that what she's going to do on that is give new powers to the regulator, that's the Competition and Markets Authority, to detect and crack down on price gouging, she said. So there will be a new anti-profiteering framework, whatever that means. But anyway, that was one of her big announcements. Another announcement was a promise of legislation to stop what she described as red tape and vested interests holding back energy security. Now, what she's talking about there is the blockers, as the Prime Minister and the Chancellor call them, blocking planning applications for things like nuclear power stations. Other measures, well, she talks about having a meeting with the banks and the supermarkets later in the week. Really, what she's trying to do is crack down on big price increases as a result of the war. There may be other measures to come, and she was candid enough to admit nobody really knows how long this war is going to last.
John, thank you, John Craig in Westminster. Now, the government has delivered 4 new ambulances to replace the ones that were destroyed in an arson attack in north-west London. The vehicles destroyed early yesterday morning at the base for the Jewish volunteer group Hatzolah in Golders Green. Anti-terror police are continuing to hunt for the men who carried out that attack. Well, Olivia Guthrie spent the day in Golders Green and is with us now. Olivia, you've been speaking to the charity that was running those 4 ambulances. What was their reaction to a delivery of new vehicles today?
Well, the chair of Hatzolah North West said that although yesterday was the charity's darkest day in its history, he said that there was incredible light as a result of the support, including these 4 new ambulances that they've received. His volunteers are determined to continue, despite the fact that obviously they remain extremely frightened after what happened.
And we're all nervous now. We're all nervous about the impact. There's going to be further copycats, there can be further attacks on the Hatzolah. We're just here to help the community improve survival, work alongside our NHS colleagues, work alongside London Fire Brigade and Metropolitan Police to improve outcomes from health emergencies, and that's all we want to do.
Well, Olivia, what's the latest on the investigation? Because this was viewed as an anti-Semitic attack, an attack on the Jewish community. We know that terror police were involved initially. Are they still involved? And, there was also talk about a potential group linked to Iran that may have been involved in this. So where are we at with the investigation into the attack?
Indeed. Well, the police have told this charity that they're confident that they're going to find those 3 hooded figures that set light to those ambulances.
There was CCTV footage, wasn't there?
CCTV of them lighting them in the early hours of yesterday morning. But obviously, we're nearly 48 hours on from there and there's been no news. The Met Chief, Sir Mark Rowley, says that it's too early to say if Iran is at all involved, although there were, as you say, those online claims from a group that is linked to Iran. But it's not being treated still as a terror incident, even though counter-terrorism police are leading it. The head of that unit, in fact, said that in the second half of last year, that national security plots involving hostile states, including Iran, went up 50%, and that was off the back of a 5-fold increase in the 4 or 5 years before that. So after yesterday's attack and after what happened in Manchester at that synagogue, the Met Police are saying that they're going to boost the number of officers to 264, including firearms teams and mounted branch and drones, to boost security for Jewish communities in the run-up to Passover, which is early next month.
Of course. Olivia, thank you. Olivia Guthrie with the latest there. The Married at First Sight star, Mel Schilling, has died at the age of 54. The reality TV personality, who was the dating show's relationship coach, had been suffering from colon cancer. Her death announced by her husband, Gareth, who said that Mel passed away peacefully today, surrounded by love, writing, "To most of you, she was Mel Schilling, matriarch of Married at First Sight and queen of reality TV. To Maddie and me, she was our wee Melsie, an incredible mum, role model and soulmate." And joining me now, Dr. Anisha Patel, a GP, author, bowel cancer survivor herself, and close friend of Mel Schilling. So good of you to come into the studio tonight. First of all, I'm incredibly sorry for your loss. So many people watching tonight will not have known Mel personally, but through Married at First Sight, they certainly felt like they did. She was the kind of personality that drew the audience into that show. She was one of the main drivers of people watching it in their millions.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, my heart is pouring out to her family, her friends, Maddie, her G. And, you know, I've only known Mel for a short time. We met through bowel cancer. It's strange how these things happen. And someone had written to me on social media today, they're saying that actually it's these snippets, these small moments that we have with people and friendships that we develop can leave a massive imprint, and that's what Mel's done for me. She was just a ray of sunshine. She wanted to raise awareness. She was open. She was honest. She championed the work I was doing around bowel cancer, and we had so many plans to raise awareness and make sure that everyone is checking their poo.
Yeah, I mean, your tribute to her on social media was a lovely photo of the two of you, and you're sort of proudly showing off her poo earrings, because as we know with bowel cancer, you can't be shy in talking about bowel movements and poo and all of that stuff that most of society on a regular day is a little bit shy about talking about. And she was very much upfront about that because her cancer came as a shock. She was initially treated. She said that she had a tumour the size of a lemon in her bowel.
She called him Terry.
She called him Terry, of course. Terry, her tumour, and that was removed, but it came back. It had spread to other parts of her body. And the thing about Mel Schilling, again, I didn't know her, but I feel like I did through social media. I didn't necessarily watch the show, but I knew about her through her campaigning, was that she tackled it with refreshing honesty and brought people into her journey with cancer, which is so important for people to see, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the one thing about Mel was, yes, she had the same stage of cancer as I had at diagnosis, but we lived with that uncertainty. And a few months later, she was diagnosed with stage 4. Now, stage 4 cancer, I really want to change the narrative because people are living with stage 4 cancer these days.
And that's when most people get diagnosed, particularly with bowel cancer, isn't it, at that late stage?
So 1 in 4 people are diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, but compared to other cancers where that's only 15 to 20%. So, unfortunately, particularly in younger people as well, we know that we often present more likely as an emergency and we are more likely to have a later stage and have a worse outcome. And we know there's a global rise in bowel cancer. But what we do want to say is that Mel worked throughout her treatment for rounds and rounds of chemo. She kept going and people do want to live their life. She wanted to make the best life for Maddie. And today, really, for me, is a bittersweet because I actually launched an initiative with Bowel Cancer UK called Stage for You for people like Mel. She took great solace from my book. She used to send me snippets going, I feel seen, I feel less alone. And we created this to make people feel less alone. And actually today, of all days, particularly for stage 4 patients, celebrities dying of stage 4 bowel cancer can be increasingly triggering. And even for me, you know, today, even if I didn't know Mel, it's all devastating.
Yeah, and as you said, living with stage 4 cancer, so many people do, and Mel did. She lived her life to the full with stage 4 on our screens with Married at First Sight as this relationship coach. Obviously, she's going through the worst of times and helping people figure out and make their way forward in their own lives. I mean, she was a remarkable character. Talk to me about her away from the cancer, because obviously she will always be associated with that because of her campaigning, but she was so much more.
Mel had so many ideas all the time. So we would chat and, you know, the few times that I met her, we would have ideas that we're going to do this campaign, that campaign, but her first love was her family. And actually, I was saying earlier, you know, sometimes it is talking about the everyday things that was just, you know, she was so down to earth. And one of the genuine ones is what I'd say.
Yeah. I hope you don't mind, Anisha, but I was looking at your social media page before I came on air today, and you've been talking a lot about meningitis. Of course, we've been covering it a lot here on the channel because of what's happening in Kent. And I understand that your nephew is currently in hospital with meningitis. What's happened there? Is he OK?
So my nephew is 10. He's not part of the outbreak, but he was diagnosed with meningitis. He's now day 11, I think, in hospital. We still don't know exactly what's caused it. They think it's viral. It's been really difficult because it happened at the same time the Men B outbreak occurred, and we didn't know, and he was really quite poorly.
Do you think that helped, the fact that there was this outbreak, so perhaps his parents were more alive to symptoms? Because, you know, as we've just been discussing with bowel cancer, if it helps one person when you talk about it on the TV and they spot the symptoms, do you think there was a lot of that going on?
But I think, you know, he had the worst headache he'd ever had. And he went into hospital and he was actually sent back, and then he went in again with a worst headache ever, and then a fever that wasn't responding to ibuprofen or paracetamol, leg pains, nausea and vomiting. And
these are all the key symptoms.
Absolutely. And with, you know, meningitis, meningococcal, the bacterial form that we're talking about with Men B, the rash that everyone talks about, that's often a later stage symptom. So we often get parents ringing up saying, oh, they've not got a rash, though. But what we want people to know is that rash is a late sign, and it can look completely different in different coloured skins as well. So it's important to look at your palms, your feet, the roof of your mouth if you've got skin of colour. That's interesting, isn't it? Because, like you said, everybody knows about the rash. For some reason, you know, the campaigning over the years, that's the one thing that sticks in people's minds. But often that's a late indicator. With meningitis, presumably bacterial and viral, the earlier you get treatment, the better the outcome. That's right. I mean, for viral meningitis, it's slightly different. There's no, you know, treatment that necessarily makes it get better unless it's this particular virus. But with bacterial meningitis, absolutely. And while we don't know, you know, my nephew's been treated with everything in the kitchen sink because actually, you know, we know that meningitis can be life-threatening. Yeah, it can indeed. And as you said, some of those symptoms you describe, people can associate them with so many different things, and it's important to talk about meningitis, not just because of this outbreak, but just all the time, because of how vital it can be. I just want to leave our conversation with something from Mel Schilling's final Instagram post. It relates to both bowel cancer and meningitis. She said, if I could leave you with one thing, it would simply be this. If something doesn't feel right, please get it checked out. It might just save your life. Dr. Anisha Patel, thank you so much for coming on to remember Mel Schilling, someone that so many people tonight watching the show will feel like they knew her. Thank you. Still to come here on the UK Tonight, a price cap of prescriptions to help protect pet owners from rising vet costs. That's on the way.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
They call him the king of the jungle.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Yusra Al-Baghir has this report, and this is what's left of it.
As a woman of colour, how did the Harris campaign speak to you?
People risk their lives to speak to us for this report.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
We're trying to see as much as we can.
Now, some good news for dog, carrot and even parrot owners, if that's what takes your fancy today. After a 3-year investigation into soaring prices, the Competition and Markets Authority has announced a new £21 price cap on pet prescriptions. Barney Papadopoulos has this report.
Awesome. She's a lovely girl.
Dogs might be a man's best friend, but they're fast becoming his most expensive one too.
What a treat. We're here.
A new report has found that the average price of vet services increased by 63% between 2016 and 2023, nearly double the rate of inflation.
The X-ray for him was £970 in total.
I feel as though the vet bills are, they just prey on the fact that you want to look after your animal.
So Andrew's 10 years old and he's had 2 operations. They cost about £6,000 or £7,000 a pop. Fortunately, he was insured.
Today's report is the result of a 3-year-long investigation aimed at increasing regulation of a sector where prices have soared over recent years. From September, pet owners will pay a maximum of £21 for their pet's first prescription. The price for other medicines within the same consultation will be capped at £12.50, a move the regulator says could save hundreds of pounds.
Good girl, Chilling.
These measures, and others, are aimed at increasing transparency in a sector that has, for some, felt opaque.
Basic services, things like vaccinations, consultations, basic dental services. Very often these are not on the websites of veterinary practices and it's hard to find them out. And when it comes to more expensive treatments, sometimes running into thousands of pounds, people are often not told up front what those costs are.
The veterinary industry in the UK is worth billions of pounds, and the report highlights how prices have been driven up by a small number of big companies that dominate the sector. At this veterinary surgery in South London, there are fears that independent providers are being tarred with the same brush.
I think everything that's happening within the veterinary industry does paint the whole profession with a negative brush, especially when even the vets working in the corporates that are coming under fire are not in control of the prices that they're making people pay.
The British Veterinary Association, which represents over 19,000 vets across the UK, has welcomed the majority of measures in the report, but questions how much owners will actually save. The changes will be legally enforceable by September. More clarity for vets and for their customers, and, many pet owners will hope, lower prices too. Barnaby Papadopoulos, Sky News.
Joining me now, Callum Liddell, who is a locum vet. And Callum, we last spoke when these proposals were initially put out there. Now they've been confirmed. Is this good news for pet owners? It certainly sounds like it on the face of it.
It is actually really quite good news because now we've got this clear transparency where we have to pay the set fee for our prescriptions. There is obviously good and bad sides to this. The good side being that pet owners will save money going online, especially for the more expensive medications that can obviously run into the hundreds of thousands. But the issue we're then going to have is what's stopping the online pharmacies from raising their prices to get round this individual price cap. Other things did come out in the report which are good, but as obviously a reporter said, I think independents are going to be tarnished with the same brush. But I think overall it's actually going to be quite a good move for the profession.
The prospect of pet owners being able to shop around was talked about when these initial proposals came out. How easy do you think that's going to be? And also, is it realistic in terms of if you have a pet and that pet goes to the vet, it tends to be someone you've trusted for a long time and you have an association with, and you can be tied into them being local as well. So how realistic do you think shopping around will be for pet owners?
Well, the issue is going to be is having a central localised database within the Royal College, who are our governing body. Having all the information to be put onto a website is going to take large amounts of resources. So for the independent practices that many people enjoy that one-to-one care, I suppose, it's going to be a very expensive change from them to go from normal fine line margins to have to fork out £500 or £1,000 to keep up. I think people want to go to vet practice because they trust the vet, they trust the team there. If you then make it cheaper somewhere else, people are then going to be putting a financial aspect, I suppose, ahead of things, when all vets and nurses want to do is provide the best care we possibly can.
What is the effect of veterinary practice with prices being lowered, essentially? Because, you know, they are businesses, after all. They're not charities. You know, electricity and gas are all being affected by those rising prices, you know, and there are other costs as well that go into running a veterinary practice. So what do you think that the lowering of prices will do there? How will it affect business?
Well, obviously every business, regardless of independent or corporate, so the larger corporates have that financial backing, I suppose, so they can take a bit of a hit on these sorts of things. But with the small independents, with electricity, gas, anaesthetic drugs, new machinery, ultrasounds, all those things do cost a lot of money. So if we then start bringing the prices down, more corporates are going to be able to take a hit on some of those prices, and the independents are going to be even more squeezed. What I worry about is going to happen is the fact that prices are going to go down, therefore salaries are going to go down, but not just salaries. It's going to be more about seeing as many clients as you can in a day to maximise your revenue. And that's what I'm slightly dubious of by bringing the prices down, because some of the large corporates, as I said, are going to want to make that extra lost revenue. But that's not saying that all of the corporates are like this. Everyone is after making sure the best.
Yeah, obviously they want to do the best by pets, but they also need to make money. And there does seem to be a sort of a tussle between big business in veterinary practice and the smaller independent vets, maybe the sole operators, maybe the family-run ones. What more support do you think independent vet owners need in order to keep their head above water and not be forced out by big business?
So when it comes to the actual reform changes, the reforms are meant to benefit the customers, but these implementations of like an online database is going to really squeeze those practices. So I think allowing breaks in those fees are going to be helpful, but those things are also going to have to be paid by our membership fees. So again, everything's going to be smaller. At the end of this year, we're obviously going to have the first part of the Veterinary Surgeons Act coming out, and I'm really hoping that we can be the first profession to bring in that corporate accountability and regulation for price that will allow these independents to have a little bit more breathing room, especially as things do get more and more expensive as the days are going on.
Well, Callum Liddell, it seems appropriate to end it on that point, particularly as we've got a cute, fluffy kitten on the screen there as our final shot. Really appreciate your input, as always. I'm sure we will speak again. That's Callum Liddell there, Locum Vet. Thank you. As does come here on the UK Tonight. The King is heckled about his brother Andrew while on a walkabout in Cornwall today. We'll be speaking to Jenny Bond. And Sky News tracks down the influencer behind the hugely successful Chloe versus History channel.
Mayhem in the Middle East, rippling in America's West.
Get back! Get back!
The resolve of these protesters is now being seriously tested. I saw police being forced or pushing young men and women to the ground as they made almost 100 arrests.
None of this is a peaceful protest.
I'm Martha Kellner and I'm Sky's US correspondent based here in Los Angeles. How are you feeling?
I am angry. It is an anti-woman agenda.
Will the cold affect your voters?
Well, we have a lot of tremendous support, but it's nasty out there.
Anybody else?
Should the Defence Secretary and the Vice...
Wait, what country are you
from? From the UK.
Okay, we don't give a crap about your opinion and your reporting. Why don't you go back to your country where you have a major migrant problem?
President Biden, do you trust President Xi? President Biden says that this meeting went well. He said real progress was made on a whole host of issues. Will your candidates win?
I hope so. I think they will. I think they're great candidates.
There's no doubt that Kamala Harris and her team are harnessing the power of social media. Do you think Kamala is brat?
Kamala's brat.
Are you scared?
Yeah, we were scared. It was terrible. Strong wind, building tearing down.
As them say, God works, so we can't do nothing.
The people here know that worse storms may well be on their way. Sky News, get the full story first. Free wherever you get your news. Ghislaine Maxwell has pleaded not guilty to all 6 charges against her. Mum, how are you feeling today?
Jeffrey said, you answer to Ghislaine, you just don't cross her.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
Perfect.
Let's bring you some breaking news.
Being a Sky News presenter.
I began by asking,
Thank you so much.
trusting us to tell her story. The battle for number 10. Sky News has been given exclusive access. Let me give you a sneak peek. It was the day those present would never forget. Why did you decide to open up and tell your story? The King has been heckled during a trip to Cornwall over his brother Andrew. He was visiting the Eden Project, which is marking its 25th anniversary, when he was shouted at by a member of the public.
Guys, stand really close,
Well, no response from the royal party, but let's get a response from royal commentator Jenny Bond. Jenny, good to see you. What do you make of what unfolded in Cornwall earlier today?
Well, it's more of the same, isn't it? It keeps happening wherever he goes, wherever William goes as well, or almost wherever. And they must be getting utterly fed up with it. I suppose the fact of the matter is actually they don't hear what's being said. I mean, we could hardly hear it there. 1 or 2 members of the crowd who did hear it told whoever it was to shut up. And most of these people who've been heckling are members of the anti-monarchist group Republic. I don't know in this case whether that was true or not. But they do have an agenda. It's not just random members of the public, and most people who turn out are obviously royalists almost by definition, or fans at least of the royal family. So I suppose from Charles's point of view, what he heard, what he saw was lots of people cheering and then a bit of a kerfuffle, and he went on his way. But it must be very depressing.
Yeah, and is it concerning, as you said, some of the heckling could be by an organised group, as has happened in the past. We don't know about this particular incident yet. It may come out in the fullness of time. But how concerning is this for the royal family and those who arrange these walkabouts, if this is to be a growing trend, particularly in light of what is unfolding with his brother Andrew?
Yeah, well, it's definitely a consistent trend. It's gathering less and less publicity because I think we're getting used to it. The first, it was headlines and it was overshadowing the purpose of their visit. That is less so now. But nevertheless, I think those around the royal family, well, I suppose they're trying to work out ways of avoiding this, but there is no way of avoiding it. Members of whatever group, be it Republic or whatever, are perfectly entitled to make their views known. But I think this is a pretty concerted campaign, and it has proved effective thus far. But I think as it goes on, as with everything else, we'll all get used to it. Yes, there's going to be a heckler. Yes, they're going to shout the same things. But the truth is that the horror show of the scandal surrounding Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is going to continue and is going to be very much a thorn in the side of the rest of the hardworking royal family.
And it's nothing new, is it? Heckling public figures, but it feels particularly jarring when it comes to the royal family, perhaps because we were so used to Queen Elizabeth II, beloved by all, greeted by well-wishers wherever she went, with very little heckling. And perhaps that's why it seems so jarring. But it's not new, royal family going back decades, hundreds of years, have been subjected to this from the public.
Yes, it has happened in the past. It has happened to the late Queen in the past. I mean, I think an egg was thrown once at her car, and I heard her heckled. I think it was Australia, New Zealand somewhere. But once again, it was just a small group of people on the side of the road, and it didn't overshadow things. This campaign has been more affected, has got more publicity, because it is the result of this the scandal surrounding Andrew, who, although he has and continues to protest his innocence vigorously, I think in the court of public opinion, is always going to find it very hard to clear his name. And because the court process, if there is to be one, at least the investigation, the police investigations, which are reported to be widening, don't know if that's true or not, but they are taking time. And that means that this shadow is going to hang over the work of the royal family for the foreseeable future.
Jenny, heckling is designed to provoke a reaction. They're never going to get one from a member of the royal family on a walkabout. However, as you said, this shadow being cast over the royal family by the fact that the scandal involving Andrew is just dragging on with no sort of step forward. You know, he's not going to talk to any kind of authorities that we know of anytime soon. Will we get any official updates, any further word from the royal family, or are they just happy to let this play out, this shadow to sit over them?
I don't think they've got any option. And the King made it very clear when Andrew Mountbatten Windsor was arrested that the law must take its course. And that's the reality of what is happening now for Andrew. He's awaiting the developments, if there is to be one, on the alleged offence of misconduct in public office. But that's incredibly hard to prove. The bar is astonishingly high. I mean, there's even a question over whether being a trade envoy for the UK is indeed a public office. And he knows that, and his lawyers know that this bar is very high. I'm sure he's having some quite squeaky bum moments over the fact that the police investigation is reported to be widening for other possible corruption charges. In glee and thinking, well, they're not going to be able to prove anything against me, are they? So it's a very complex situation, and that's why it's going to run and run, and that's probably why we're going to see more protests like this, more heckling like this. But I do think that we, the media, will get bored with reporting about it unless it becomes absolutely overwhelmingly loud. And the royal family will go on ignoring it, because what else can they do?
Oh, Jenny, thank you for coming on to talk to us about it. That wasn't boring at all. We're not bored of it just yet. Thank you. Jenny Bond there. Now to something remarkable. Chloe versus History is an online hit with millions of viewers. They watch a time-travelling presenter take us to places like Victorian Britain, ancient Rome, and even to visit the dinosaurs. But it turns out Chloe is not what you might expect. Tom Clark explains.
You've seen these, right?
I genuinely cannot breathe. This is not fog. This is just pollution.
They're everywhere.
Excuse me, you know the ship is going to sink, right?
What are you talking about? This ship is unsinkable.
And people seem to be obsessed. They're getting millions of views.
Look how cute they are. Oh, okay.
The clips are obviously AI generated in some way, but what people want to know is how exactly are they made? And is the woman who appears in them, Chloe, AI generated as well, or is she a real person? She certainly looks like it. So we decided to track her down. I've never met a Instagram celebrity before. Hello.
Hi there.
Is that Chloe?
Sorry, I don't look like her.
You really don't, do you? I'm Tom.
I'm Jonathan.
Hello.
Come on in.
I can't help feeling a little bit catfished.
Yeah, she's not real. And she's definitely not bold.
Chloe, it turns out, is Jonathan, who used to work in customer services while combining his interest in history and new AI tools as a hobby. Now it's his full-time job. Why? Why Chloe?
I've been sitting on this idea of producing a history AI influencer for a while.
So I just arrived in Salem, Massachusetts, 1692, and honestly, it's not as bad as I thought.
Which is gold! She bears the devil's mark upon her neck.
I wanted someone who is totally relatable and totally human, and it's something that their AIs previously have not been able to do, and that is capture the real human emotion and the non-verbal cues that humans show.
Excuse me, bonjour.
I was wondering if I could ask you a quick...
Insupportable.
Didn't expect anything less.
When I was testing this new model, I was like, bang, that is spot on. And I don't know how they've done it, but they seem to have made a huge leap forward.
Chloe came to be in his spare room studio.
What should we do?
OK, can we go to Pompeii? He uses Anthropic's Claude to help him build a script, which is then fed into a new video AI, Seed Dance 2.0. Jonathan is one of a small group of creators given early access to the model.
So I've asked it to produce 5 photorealistic image prompts. OK. Because we're generating the images first and then the video. And then I'll just upload this as an image reference, and this is the video prompt.
About 4 minutes later, it's ready.
Okay, so I just arrived in Pompeii and it is giving Roman holiday, but like real.
Maybe it helps that these are still fictitious settings.
With real places, it falls down a bit. Yes, you've got that first frame, but then whatever happens after that, the AI is imagining. So this one.
Hi, what do? You are the hardest working person I have ever met. Victorian men? Kind of hot.
OK, hands up, I actually added that line at the end.
Jonathan is still the creative director, but he's just one guy. Which makes you wonder, it took a team of us and a camera crew to film with him. What can you do with a bigger budget and a bigger team of people? The death of Hollywood?
Don't leave me.
But not if the lawyers can help it. Seed Dance has already been warned over copyright by Disney and other studios. In a statement, Seed Dance's parent company, ByteDance, told us it's now taking steps to prevent unauthorised use of intellectual property.
He had to die, and now you die too.
It didn't confirm reports a full rollout of the model beyond China has been paused. The row between AI labs and Hollywood looks far from over. Tom Clark, Sky News.
Pretty incredible stuff. Still to come here on the UK tonight. Some big news coming out of Liverpool this evening. Mohamed Salah leaving the club at the end of this season. We'll have more on that next.
This program is delivered by DHL, the official logistics partner of VSL.
Welcome to the DHL Sports Hub on Sky News. Coming up, Matt Fitzpatrick keeps up his good form with his third PGA Tour win less than 3 weeks before the Masters at Augusta. And there's reaction from Wembley as Manchester City beat Arsenal to the EFL Cup. The result has ended Mikel Arteta's hopes of a quadruple, but what impact might that have on the Premier League title race? We start though with Formula One and a grateful Valtteri Bottas, who says 12 months out of the sport have helped him discover a newfound appreciation of life on the grid. The Finn was the reserve driver at Mercedes last season before joining Cadillac along with Sergio Perez, himself without a drive in 2025 for this campaign. With more than 500 starts between them, they're one of the most experienced pairings in F1. And while they're yet to score, Bottas says they've each put their ego to the side in order to focus on growing their new team.
I appreciate being part of the sport. I appreciate the sport, everything around it much more than before, and especially like the racing side of it. Like for me, the whole process on Sunday, you get ready, you jump in the car, get to the grid, you do the national anthem, you just have this appreciation of everything that we are so lucky to be there, So for me, it has made a huge difference.
You were both with teams when they were dominating, both watching it happen. So I guess there is a lot you can bring to Cadillac actually from that experience. Do you two ever talk about that, about those times?
We do. I think we've both seen a lot in the sport. We've seen what works with a good team. We've also both seen what doesn't quite work. So we've seen the good and bad. I think we have good understanding on what a team needs, what the car needs, how the team needs to operate to be at the best level. So I think together, also with the mindset that we both have, that we are definitely putting the team first instead of us, that's going to hopefully help us to improve quicker.
So no number two drivers in your team?
No number twos, or if there's number twos, then we are both number twos.
While Cadillac are yet to get off the mark, British driver Ollie Bearman has made an impressive start to the year after finishing 7th in Australia, then taking a point in the sprint race at the Chinese Grand Prix. He was 5th in the main race in Shanghai. Bearman feels he's learned from his first full season in F1 last year with Haas.
I wouldn't say I'm a faster driver, in terms of driving ability, nothing has changed, but I'm definitely more assured and more understanding. I've taken a big step in maturity as well. So with the team, even on a Thursday, I know how to utilize my time. I understand what the goals are for FP1 tomorrow and every session of the weekend, and that allows me to be more productive and use every lap to the maximum. So I've definitely taken a big step in that regard, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that develops throughout the year.
Well, Bearman's exploits have him sitting as best of the rest in the overall standings, immediately behind this year's early pace setters Mercedes and Ferrari. He's 2 points ahead of world champion Lando Norris going into this weekend's Japanese Grand Prix. Kimi Antonelli won his first F1 race last time out in China, and he also took the DHL Fastest Lap Award on lap 52. Were it not for Lewis Hamilton's brief stay at the front of the pack, he'd have had a grand slam of pole, the fastest lap and victory after leading the whole race. A decent day for Ferrari in Shanghai included their success in the DHL Fastest Pit Stop, their first of the season, coming through Hamilton's visit of 2.29 seconds, 500ths better than Liam Lawson in his Racing Bull. And it was no surprise Antonelli was also driver of the day, presented by Salesforce. He just edged out Hamilton with 23.4% of the vote, 1.1% more than the former world champion. Away from the track, Jonathan Wheatley is being tipped to take on the role of team principal at Aston Martin after he left Audi on Friday. Wheatley was only in charge of Audi for 2 rounds after they replaced Sauber, but he stepped down citing personal reasons, with Matteo Binotto replacing him. Adrian Newey has vacated the same role at Aston Martin to focus on car development. On to football now, and Pep Guardiola maintains Manchester City's 2-0 EFL Cup final win over Arsenal will have no bearing on the Premier League title race when it resumes after the upcoming international break. The result at Wembley means Mikel Arteta's side's hopes of a quadruple this season are over as their 6-year wait for another trophy goes on. Well, 2 goals in 4 minutes from Nico O'Reilly, the first after a mistake from Arsenal goalkeeper Kepa, gave City the trophy for the 9th time in their history. It's the 5th time Guardiola has lifted it, a new record for a manager. City still trail their North London rivals by 9 points in the league, but could the result at Wembley shift momentum the other way?
I would like to have 9 points in front of Arsenal, but I don't know, we changed for the trophy. It would be 9 points to fight for the Premier League. and it will not have no impact. Different competitions, and they will be more concerned when they will come to Etihad. The Premier League is in their hands. I think they punish us a lot. But we have one game in hand. We have Arsenal at home and 3 points difference plus average. So you see that team is going to drop points. We're going to try to win our games. We won the first, and we'll see what happens.
Don't get me wrong, of course you'd rather be in Arsenal's dressing room. You've got a 9-point buffer, but that can quickly change. And I feel if Arsenal would have won today, I just think that would have put Manchester City to bed. Now, it's just asked the question, the pressure will just ramp up just that extra little bit. There was a bit of a break now, obviously, with the internationals, and it gives Arsenal a lot of thinking time. That they are the favourites, and rightly so, and I still think they will win it. But it just changes the dynamic. For a team that hasn't got across the line, now you've really asked the question, OK, we're coming after you. And I think with a team like Manchester City, that's probably the last side you want.
English golfer Matt Fitzpatrick believes he's in a much better place going into this year's Masters than last after claiming his first PGA Tour win in nearly 3 years at the Valspar Championship in Florida. Having led the recent Players' Championship with 2 holes to go, then missed out, Fitzpatrick came through late on at the Copperhead course to birdie the last and beat David Lipsky by 1 shot. With Augusta just over 2 weeks away, the 31-year-old is happy with the progress he's made.
I felt like last week I played so well right until the end, and you know, to lose the way I did, it's always disappointing. It always feels like it takes a lot out of you when you've spent 4 days of your life battling to try and get that top spot, and to lose it like right at the death is always difficult to take. So this week was important to get back on the horse and try and push myself to continue playing well. It was tough this time last year. I missed the cut of the players, played really badly, and then had a change in my team on the caddy front, and then didn't make the cut of Valero, and kind of scrambled my way around Augusta, and it was hard. I didn't really know what was gonna happen. It's hard. That's why I hate the game and I love the game. That's why I always tell people I prefer football as opposed to golf. But it is a frustrating game, but we keep coming back because, for moments like on the last today.
Boxer Tyson Fury has welcomed Anthony Joshua's return to training 3 months on from a tragic car accident that killed 2 of his closest friends and coaching team. Fury's keen to set up a fight with his British heavyweight rival after he takes on Arslanbek Makhmudov next month.
Good to see the guy back in training camp. He obviously had a bit of a tough time lately and all that. So I'll just give him space, and whatever he wants to do, he can do. If it's fight to be made, let's get it done. You know what I mean? Yeah. Let me get Makhmudov out of the way, and we're on like Donkey Kong. The biggest fight for me in world boxing, and the biggest fight in the world of boxing, is me versus AJ.
Keely Hodgkinson says she's targeting world domination in 2026 after claiming her first big title of the year at the World Athletics Indoor Championships. She took 800 metres gold in an event record time, but she wasn't the only Briton topping the podium in Poland. Hodgkinson's victory came in a 28-minute spell on Sunday night that also saw Georgia Hunter-Bell win the women's 1500 metres and Molly Caudry come out on top in the pole vault. And that was after Josh Kerr had reclaimed his men's 3000 metres title on Saturday, repeating his success from Glasgow 2 years ago. It was a strong display from the Brits, but now Hodgkinson wants more.
Incredibly happy how this weekend has gone. It's everything I could have imagined, this whole indoor season. I literally just took it week by week, and life is so exciting right now. I'm enjoying all the twists and turns and all the good times and the lows that come with it, and just grateful to be in a good place right now. But I'm so excited to build on this. My word for this year was domination. I want global domination, and it's a great way to start it. And we've got a very exciting summer with the Europeans and the World Ultimates and everything else to follow. So happy and excited to build on this, and let's see what we can do.
This program is delivered by DHL, the official logistics partner of VSL.